Hello and welcome to JHUK. This week we try not to be distracted by the Brexit row and the resignations that are occurring as we go to air, and instead concentrate on an American woman who could be leading her country one day, Michelle Obama. And we'll look at the difference between cultural appropriation and appreciation. When does appreciation cross the line to become appropriation? I'm Priscilla Nwikpo, and on the panel this week, founder of the Common Sense Network, Mike Omoniyi, journalist and broadcaster, Afua Adum, and the author and journalist, Ayo Akinfe. So let's start with Michelle Obama. She's been trending on social media due to her book launch and those incredible magazine photo covers. But she's much more than just beautiful images. She's a woman of substance and a role model for women all around the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, 2 years after leaving the White House, she's still commanding a whole lot of, headlines and ticket sales for her book here in London. It was crazy. I didn't get one. It was sold out in moments. Yeah. What is it about Michelle Obama? Let me come to you first, Mike.
Well, she's very interesting. I mean, some would say polarizing if you're Republican, but she is a strong, independent black woman. She's educated. She actually, I think, was working at a law firm before Barack got there. She's smart. She's not just a pretty face. I mean, we moved past that. She's very, very intelligent, and she's a strong, independent black woman. And I think it's good to see the world celebrating that for once.
I think I agree with you on that one. What is it about her? What's the big deal? What's the fuss? It's Michelle Obama.
It is Michelle Obama. And I think that she has this kind of enigma status. I mean, she went into the White House and really made the role of First Lady her own. I mean, I know I sound like one of the X Factor judges when I say that. But, she took a role which she admitted herself, a role in office, which wasn't really a role, and took things that she was passionate about, like healthy eating for children, exercising for children, and did her best to make a job out of something. And she's relatable. I love that. Relatable.
Ayo, I mean, she transcends all the racial barriers, you could, whatever you want to call it. She's loved right across. Why do you think she has that appeal where she transcends all the racial barriers?
I think, first of all, you've got to look at her charisma. She's just this platform speaker who just appeals to everybody. I mean, listening to her at times is like listening to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. During the civil rights struggle, 15% of the white population in America actually joined the civil rights struggle because they were just so infected with Dr. King's charisma. And, I believe Michelle's got that as well. And I believe if she ran for the White House, she stands a good chance of winning.
So she talks about in her book, as Afua wants to tell me, everything in her book, I won't allow you. She talks about in her books that, she had to have IVF. To be able to have her babies. And she describes the fact that, she too went through miscarriages. And did it surprise you when she mentioned the fact that she had IVF for her babies?
Yes, I must admit, I was taken a bit aback by that. Because if you look at her, the way she conducted herself throughout the 8 years she was in the White House, she always tried to stick to the issues. She always said, she came up with this famous quote, "When they go low, we go high." So I would have thought her book, I haven't read it yet, I haven't bought it yet.
Don't worry, I won't let Afua tell you.
Okay, please, stop her from saying
I will. She can't spoil it.
I would have thought her book would have been more about issues, healthcare, children, racial equality, gender issues. But she decided to add a personal angle to it, which, to be honest, is a good thing. It's not bad to, give us a little bit of insight into who you are as an individual.
And I think to pick up on what you said there, I think that's why there is so much buzz about the book, because she said herself, not in the book, in interviews, that this was a chance for her, after 8 years of not being able to say all the things that she wanted to say, this was a chance for her to be herself, to be honest and tell her story. And I must admit, I was totally shocked by the IVF admission, by the miscarriage story, because Barack Obama and Michelle Obama went through their presidency without a scandal. Not saying that it's a scandal, but there was never any hint of it. There was never any mention of it at all. So for that to be one of the top lines from the book was like, wow, what else can we expect?
Absolutely. So Mike, Aya mentioned there that, about her running for the US presidency, and on social media she's described as the forever First Lady. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we're likely to see a President Michelle Obama?
No. I don't think we are. I hate to shatter everyone's illusions. Everyone goes, no, no, I don't think we're going to have it. Mainly because, one, she's kind of vehemently denied it. She said, I'm not interested in it. In a few interviews, one with Oprah, one with kind of news outlets as well. She doesn't want to do it. But also, I think what's dangerous here, I hate to take a turn, but what's dangerous here is the kind of celebrity status kind of presidency thing that's happening now. So we know that, Reagan to some extent was like kind of the first kind of TV president, as it were. And now you've got, well, with Obama using social media, we've got the kind of this social media kind of superstar, kind of messiah kind of complexy like president.
Not forget
and
Trump
now,
on social media.
Trump as well, Trump is the same. But my fear is that now we're talking about Oprah or Michelle Obama, all these, I mean, someone said The Rock running for president. I'm like, no, that's not what presidency is. It's not a popularity contest. It's not X Factor. It's something totally different. So I don't think she wants to do it, and I think it would actually be an issue.
I don't think they've heard, they consider it that way in a country that I know.
Yeah.
In Africa. We won't mention any names. But
well, actually, though, I was speaking a bit earlier about this. Like, I've been watching a series online with presidential aspirants actually being asked kind of tough questions about what they think about politics. I do think Nigeria is moving in the right direction. I don't know if that's where you're leading to, but I do think we just got to go back to issues. That's my fear. Not too much celebrity issues.
Okay, I mean, I hear what you're saying. We should go back to issues, but does it matter? Surely, the whole celebrity thing gives a little vavavoom, gets a lot more people interested. Surely, I
think it would get a lot more people interested. I agree. If people are voting for people they already like or don't like, the decision's made for them. However, I think there's if you're already a celebrity, why do you need to run for president? You already have so much power and influence, and now you want to take that to legislation, and it's all a bit of a murky area.
But it's usually because they all feel they can give something back. They feel that they want to do much more than be this celebrity. I mean, surely the celebrity status will give more to them. They always feel that they want to give more.
Yeah.
It's not enough for me to just be a celebrity, but I have more to give to my people, more that I can share with the world. I mean, do you think that would have any negative effect or take away from the issues as
well, not negative per se, but you should be a conviction politician who's also a celebrity, rather than being a celebrity who just wants to add politics to it. And I think in terms of Michelle, the debate is going to be, what is she about? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Is it 40-60? I don't think anyone's been able to decide, is she more of a celebrity or more of a politician?
Well, I hear what we're saying here, but surely as individuals as it is, we always feel that we have more to give, don't we? I'm of the belief that we're not made for one thing. We're made to do different things. And especially in today's world, we see that a lot more. Yeah. Gone are the days when somebody was a medical doctor and who would do that for life. Today, you're a medical doctor. Tomorrow, you decide you want to be something else. And we're seeing a lot more of that.
I think what's really important to kind of get back to here is politicians are primary legislators. That's what they are. They're people who make laws. That's the point of politicians. Celebrity is someone who's lauded for or loved for qualities, which is it's a good thing. They can, I actually think Michelle Obama had a great deal being. I know she said she never wanted to go into politics, but she had a great deal because she couldn't be held to task on policy because it was her husband, but she could campaign on what she cared about, something like fitness and stuff like that. The issue with kind of celebrities becoming politicians, as it were, all you have to do is look at Trump. Trump
so
is very
on that
important.
note, staying on the celebrity note, we're seeing the December issues of a lot of magazines this year are going to be carrying women of African origin or African American women. Serena Williams is on GQ, Woman of the Year. Viola Davis is also on Glamour magazine. Is this a new trend that we're likely to see happening, or is it just a flash, as it were?
I think it's not a trend because black women are not a trend.
Okay.
It's not. We're not flash in the pan. We're not going to be trendy today, not trendy tomorrow. I think it's a case of publishers and magazine editors waking up and realizing that in fact black women do sell covers. I've worked in magazines for years.
Remember once upon a time they said they didn't sell covers. That's why they didn't put them on.
And I edit a magazine at the moment which is for black women, so we always have black women on our covers. But I've interviewed Tandy Newton, and she in 2011 I think it was, and she said, I've been told by X magazine and Y magazine that they won't put me on the cover because I won't sell. And 7 years later she has appeared on the covers of those magazines that she mentioned. You can Google it and you can find out the names. But now I think magazine editors are realizing, look, black women can sell covers as well as, if not more so than their white counterparts. It's just about realization. And I mean, with Serena Williams, she is the greatest tennis player of all time. Who doesn't want to see her on a magazine cover? And Michelle Obama has transcended race, women, everything. She's like a goddess. There's no one that doesn't love her. You know, so she's going to
Mike
sell a
doesn't
cover
agree
anyway.
with you on that.
I don't.
But coming back to her talking about her running for office,
Yeah.
I think she never will because she said she doesn't want to. But I think at this point, America would be far too polarized to be able to vote for her. There's no way you can go from Trump to Michelle Obama.
Afua, I wish I can allow you to continue, but as a woman, she may change her mind, you never know. Well, that's all we've got time for this moment. Don't go away because we'll be right back. So please join us in a few moments. We're not going away. Hello and welcome back to JHUK. They've just had the midterms in the US, but the other big election news was the 19 African American women who ran for position of judges and all won. They campaigned under the slogan Black Girl Magic with the support of the Harris County Democratic Party. This is in sharp contrast to the UK, where it has been recently revealed that the parole board has no black people amongst its 240 members. Wow. I mean, we have a different system here in the UK, but could it be seen here? Could we see anything like that here, where we'll have 19 women of African origin running for office of judges and be able to all win at the same time, Ayo?
No, I don't think we could get that.
How can you say that? We have the Meghan effect.
We're still light years away from there. In America, despite all their problems, the fact remains that they've had a civil rights movement. There's an expectation that everybody has a right to be part of the country. In the UK, there's still this traditional English xenophobia, which manifested itself with the Brexit vote that is still here. And so, black people who've lived here all their lives for 2-3 generations are still, I think, at the back, there's still this subconscious thing that you're not from here. And I think that will, for the time being, it will always play on things.
Okay, I don't know if I agree. I'm not sure that we'll get 19 of them at once, but I really do think that the Meghan Markle effect will absolutely play, and I think we're beginning to see it. Afua is not agreeing with me.
No, no. Just no. I agree with Ayo. It's just,
you keep saying no.
I just think, out of 240 members of the parole board at the moment, you have 12 who are of Asian or some sort of ethnic minority.
That's right.
And none of those are black.
Yeah.
And it's said that at the there was something like 5 interview stages and they all fell at the wayside at interview stages 1 and 2. There's something inherently wrong with the parole board system. Obviously, they've gone through a lot of changes because of the John Warboys case, and the head of the parole board left, and a lot of things are happening there. I understand that, but this would be the perfect opportunity for them to bring in more people of color. But the fact that it takes 19 African American women to be elected for us to figure out that we have none means that nobody was aware of the problem in the first place and clearly didn't care. I don't think there is a Meghan Markle effect. If Meghan Markle was as dark as I am, perhaps we might see it might be more significant, but there is no Meghan Markle effect.
Okay.
Like Ayo said, the Brexit vote happens, I know Meghan Markle married Prince Harry after that, but it doesn't matter. You still had readers of certain newspapers saying awful things.
I think what has happened with Brexit or Meghan Markle is that we are at the realization point, aren't we, here in the UK now, that we are probably, unconsciously biased, or that we are inherently, for want of a better word, racist, or that we are closet about all of these things. Yeah. So I do think that realization is a beginning of change. I mean, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of things though. just to say, there's a lot of grassroots campaigners who have been trying to fight racism as and structural oppression in this country for a long time, way before Meghan Markle got interested in Prince Harry. So they're kind of like to tie it. I'm not saying you're doing so, but people often say Meghan Markle's kind of changed the games. No, she's a one woman who fell in love, and it so happens she's black and he's white. But really and truly, there's people who are at the kind of grassroots level fighting this for and have been doing so for a long time. To look at some stats really quickly. We make up, black people, 3% of the population in the UK.
Oh,
we represent 12% of the prison population. In America, I think America makes up, black people make up something like, I think 12 or a bit more percent, but they make up 35% of the prison population. So if this can happen in America, definitely we can get some black members of the
very
board.
quickly though, before I move on to my next ask, which is this. Yes, we have 19 women that are now judges, in the court. Are we likely to see less people of young black men, as it were, in America going to prison then? Since we have judges of the same, do we think it's going to have that kind of effect?
I think it will, not directly, not necessarily because they're black, but because one of the issues these judges are going to have to deal with is bail reforms, which has been a big problem, and a disproportionate number of black people go to prison in America because the bail system is rigged against them. Now, in Harris County, all 59 seats were won by the Democrats, and they've promised bail reform. So I believe once this comes in, you will see more black people getting access to bail.
Okay, now I hear you, but we're talking Texas, which is very much in the South in the US here, and it is the biggest, the second biggest state in the US, and it's associated with cowboys and all of those things. But what do we think has changed recently that has brought about, this new embracing, if you like?
And it's a really good question you ask, because weirdly, since Trump has been the president, you have more women, and especially women of ethnic minorities, elected as governors, or come into the government or in legislature in the US, which is kind of a bizarre byproduct of his presidency, considering so much of what he stands against. And Texas, I've seen lots of things on social media that Texas, the state, were very proud that they managed to do this, because, like you said, it's associated with cowboys and rednecks, and is a very red state, very Republican state. I think it's maybe just people waking up and realizing that, look, we need to get more people who are reflective of the society that we live in positions of power to make decisions that affect us all in a positive way.
But is it that easy, Mike?
No.
Just an awakening that suddenly...
No, so I don't think it's... I'm a social scientist, so the idea that things just happen is like, no. So I think one of the major things we can look at is, one thing that happens when you get kind of polarizing figures who kind of are in power is those who are displaced kind of galvanize together, and you can see that through history. So a positive thing that Trump has done is essentially made the Democratic Party wake up a bit and go, well, so what's happening here? We thought we were going to win. And then two, minorities come together a bit more, because they understand to fight Trump, we've got to come together, right? So gay, straight, black, we got to come together to fight this kind of one guy. So I think you can kind of look at that as one of the contributing factors for what we're seeing.
Interesting. So coming back to our parole board here in the UK, the head of the parole board says that it's because of unconscious bias that we see the situation where 240 members are all white. I mean, what is unconscious bias in the first instance? I know I've mentioned it, and what do we need to do to encourage more people to be
unconscious bias? And I say this because I just want to kind of get this out there. People have called it tacit racism, and there's this notion that you're kind of unaware of your kind of implicit kind of thoughts and views that you've harbored for a long time, and it could be the case. However, I just want to add another layer to this, and I think we have to be very careful about identity politics. Namely, this idea that if we get black people into the parole board, they're going to become black champions. They're going to become people who kind of stand up for black people. That's not true, and neither is it the case that if we have a certain amount of white people on the board, they're going to disproportionately kind of harm black people. I want to see people who do crime go to jail. And when, in terms of them getting released, I want them to be assessed, and if they're fit, they get released. That's what I want to see. Now,
but it doesn't always work that way.
I know.
That's the ideal.
Yeah.
In as much as you say that, those who are within the industry, the prison service, or those who have been affected, they will tell you that there was absolutely no reason why their family member shouldn't be released, or there was absolutely no reason why their family member was said to have done something. So when you trace it and you look at it very carefully, it goes back to who made that decision. I mean, Ayo, but what do you think we need to do to encourage more people of African origin, or if you like, to be part of these institutions for that change that is required?
Well, from what we were told, there was a lot of black people who actually applied to go on the parole board, but they got dropped along the way. So I'm not convinced there's an argument for lack of efforts. It's just, as you mentioned earlier, there's this unconscious racism that is there, which has been ingrained and developed over the centuries. I mean, this is the country of the empire. So, if you're a traditional English person, at the back of your mind, you've got it ingrained that, we are English. These people, even if they've lived here for 3 generations, they're not British. And back to the issue you raised about black people influencing what goes on the parole board or within the justice system, I think it is an issue. Because do you know that when people die in custody and they have to make a decision could be made to cremate somebody. Now, for most African people, cremation is culturally unacceptable. But because there's no black people on these boards or in this system, there's nobody to stand up and say...
But is it only black people that can harbour that belief, is my point. Like, that's my thing. I'm not saying you're wrong. Yeah. We have to be careful of thinking, so long as we get 3% of the parole board black, the issue's fixed. Like, no, that's not the issue.
No, but if someone actually raised it, would they? I don't think they're aware of it.
This is the thing, is that if you need to bring these people to the table in the first place, so they can influence these conversations. But you need to make the parole board, first of all, attractive for people of different races and ethnic minorities to want to work there. But also, you've got to, whatever systems were allowing them to fall down at the first and second hurdle. I'm not saying we should have affirmative action, but they should be looked at, the reasons why they seem to be weeded out so early. Well,
on that note, we're going to take a quick break. We have so much more to discuss when we come back, so please join us in a few moments. We'll be right back.
Do you want to join the conversation? Well, you can follow us on Twitter at RealJHUK.
Hello and welcome back to JHUK. Here in the UK, a theatre director who received a grant from minority ethnic arts leaders was plunged into an identity row after it was discovered that his parents are white. Anthony Ekondayo Lennon says he's never hidden his Irish heritage and has hit back at his critics, saying they've made him feel like a liar and a thief, but says he has had to justify and explain himself his whole life. As you can see from these childhood pictures though, he certainly looks like he's from an ethnic background, which is why he adopted the name Ekondayo, to acknowledge his African ancestry. For me, when I read this story, I thought, this is so sad that he has had to identify as something he's not because of what he's been through.
Hold on.
So wait for me, I'm coming. So for that reason, I do feel a little bit sorry for him. He doesn't know his exact African heritage, but he's adopted a name anyway. What do you think about it? Do you feel sorry for him?
No.
You're like, okay.
Because first of all, he knew that the grant that he was getting was for someone who's of an ethnic minority. Now, he, unfortunately, in this case, is not of an ethnic minority. His parents are white. If he has African heritage and he can prove it, fine. This is not about how he looks. First of all, you should have said, sorry, I'm not actually of an ethnic minority, even though I look like it, so I can't accept your grant. So people that say that he's saying that he's upset because people are saying he's a liar and a thief, essentially he's taking that grant away from someone who actually is of an ethnic minority and could have used it.
But then the theatre that he worked for was for ethnic minorities. It wasn't as though he took the grant into a white...
Oh, no, and that's fine.
Okay.
But you are not an ethnic minority theatre director, my friend. So why have you got this grant? He should have been honest and said, I'm actually not. It's not about you identifying as. Like, I can identify as a cactus right now, but I'm not one. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, but having said that, surely though, we must not ignore the fact that his environment was the kind that pushed him to feel that I have to identify. He didn't identify and still worked within the white sector.
No,
as
I
it
get
were.
that.
He identified and worked within the black sector.
And of course, he said that because of the way he looks, you know, people assumed that he was black, and so he's perhaps, you know, being called things or experienced things that other black people have. But then you just don't decide, okay, people think I'm black, so I'm just going to be black, and then accept a grant for ethnic
so then what happens,
minorities.
Ayo? What happens, Ayo? I know Mike is itching. Bear with him, Mike. What happens when our environment is that porous that somebody needs to go to such a length, but then now we are all hitting out at him and calling him a liar?
I actually sympathize with him a lot. I'm not going to be as hard on him as I fear, because I think it just highlights what black people in the UK have to go through. It's not just a black and white thing. You look at the history of the abolition movement, some of the greatest heroes of the anti-slavery era were white. You know, I remember John Brown. When we were in primary school, we used to sing this song, John Brown's body like a molding in the grave. And this was a white guy who was hanged.
It's not that popular, that song anymore, is it?
Not anymore. He was hanged. He was hanged for helping black slaves escape. So this chap, to me, from what I've read about him so far, everything he's done, he's given back to the black community. If he was pocketing this money or, you know, creating all the films in the white industry, fair enough. But everything he's done is given back to the black community.
And that's
Hold on, because Mike has been itching. I need to hear Mike.
Okay, so I'll let Mike come in.
No, so one thing we should do here, we shouldn't kind of make jest of like someone who might be going through an identity issue. Maybe he's trying to figure out who he is, and there's many people who don't know who they are and trying to come to terms with it. And that's fine, that's okay. The issue here is just three actually. One is that he picked some identity markers in the article. He said, I've been called the N-word, I've done this, I've done that. And he says, so like, I feel like I'm black. And that's an issue, because that's not what being black is. Being black isn't being called an N-word. You can't, because you've been called an N-word mistakenly, you know, people thought it was mixed race. You can't say, because I've had that experience, I now understand what it's like to navigate the world as a black person. Because there's the thing about me, I'm not fair-skinned. I have to live black. I don't get to choose when I'm black, you know. So for instance, that's something about his privilege being a bit lighter skinned, is he can choose when he's black. He can go, oh, here's a grant for black people, I'm black now. And then when he's having cocktails somewhere else, oh, I'm white. And he gets that choice, and that's an issue, because you say he hasn't pocketed money. He gets a salary from this, right? And that's a salary taken away from a dark skinned or a black skinned brother who never gets a chance to have this thing. Or sister.
Oh, okay, I hear what you guys are saying. However, I mean, I think it's important to point out that in a similar vein, a young Swedish woman caused outrage after people on social media felt that she led them to believe she was black due to her skin color and curly hair. She also used black emojis. It turns out she uses dark makeup and braids her hair overnight to achieve this look. One publication calls the phenomena of the white woman posing as black the Kylie Jenner effect. It's something that is happening so much more now. I've seen I saw an array of pictures recently on social media of these young white girls. And by the time they're done with the makeup, forget it.
And the
They're
filters.
black.
Let's not forget the filter. Let's not forget the highlight. First of all, let's not give the Kardashian Jenners too much credit, because they don't deserve it. Second of all, this is cultural appropriation. This is people realizing that black culture sells, but black people don't.
Good.
So they take the best of black culture, which is the gorgeous skin, which is the melanin, which is the highlight, which is the braids, which is the body shapes, put it on a white person, it sells. Put it on a black person, you don't want any part
Okay,
of that.
pause. Now, you know, we're talking about cultural appropriation here. Isn't it the case that it's not so much, because for me, I look at these young white girls who are doing this, you know, the picture of the Swedish girl was up just then. I look at them and I say, wow, isn't that interesting? Now, I don't see it as cultural appropriation. I think she's appreciating. However, I feel that it is those who give them credit. It is those who say something like, oh, Kim Kardashian's bottom is the best on the planet, or, you know, when mine naturally is that. I didn't have to build it.
Come on.
You know, I think it's those who write it, for instance, that create that misappropriate
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the individuals that are doing it. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. I
Mike.
mean, it's chicken or egg, what we're talking about. Is it the media that does it? Is it the people? But what's really important is credit. Credit is the real thing here. Fortnite, a famous game, I'm a bit addicted, has the avatars who play doing these dance moves. The dance moves are from Chicago. They're from America. They're in black populations. Lots of like viral videos. They're black. And what they do is they take the dances, they make the characters do it, but they don't pay the people. They don't pay them. They don't give them credit, and that's the issue. Is credit. Imitation is the best form of flattery. They say, which is great. Copy me, music like me, but give me credit. Pay me properly, or acknowledge it came from me. I saw someone saying that box braids they call it. My sister's a hairstylist, so I should know this. Box braids, and someone's like, okay, Jenna was like she spread it all.
You see what I mean? It's a person who says that. But on that note though, Ayan, I'm going to come to you on this. Should ethnicity be a choice? Especially when it comes to being paid for it.
Well, to be honest, these days you can choose to change gender, to change profession, to change height, to change anything. So there's an argument for saying, you know what, I should be able to change ethnicity too if I want to. But the reality, I think the reality we face, right, if we want to be brutally frank, is that being white sells. You understand? If you have a white rapper, or you have a white guy who wears his jeans, around his, below
sells
his
in
buttocks.
what though? Because I don't think it just sells outright.
No.
I think there are sectors that it might sell, but I don't. Because for instance, if you're in Africa. No matter what anybody says to you, the majority of the people in most African countries are black. So that's what sells. Their magazines are usually their celebrities and all of that. That is what it is. So, it's only if we're living in Europe, for instance, or if you're in the US, I think it's where, that clear divide is. But
well, you say that, but I think if a white person went to Kenya or Nigeria or Ghana to open a jollof rice restaurant, the place would be packed.
Are you sure?
I
don't know about that. I don't know about that.
I'll tell you why.
But just before we run out of time, though, let me quickly ask, because, I've got my wig on today. And, with us black women, a lot more of us are wearing different types of hair. Mostly, would we call them mostly wigs, or we're doing weaves, or whatever it is we're doing, long down our backs, is blonde nowadays, the color array is just unbelievable. But can we not say that was also cultural appropriation?
Oh, see that then? You had to look directly at me. That's a difficult one. I think when it...
What makes it difficult?
Because you could perhaps say yes, right? Because perhaps you're trying to emanate European hair. No, but some people might say that. Some people might say that. But I would say no, hair is hair.
The companies that produce them are white. The owners are white. We still pay them. They still get everything at the end of the day.
Not all of them.
Oh, I'm saying the major ones are still white.
So what you're saying, Mike, is that they get paid for it, so it's okay.
They get credit.
Nobody is misappropriating anything there.
You admitted, and black women admit, I'm wearing a wig. That's you.
Oh yeah.
Let them know. Listen,
I got no issues with that.
But there you go. That's credit being given. The issue is they never give credit. They never go, oh my God, I saw a famous kind of black Egyptian queen wear this. That's why I'm wearing it. They go, look at my new box braids I did in my room. And that's the issue. Give credit where it's due.
I hear you. Ayo, do you agree with Mike on this one?
To a large extent, yes, there should be credit. There should be credit.
They actually agree. This is really good. But on that note of agreement, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go far. We'll be back with lots more to discuss. So see you in a few moments. Hello and welcome back to JHUK. Here in the UK, a major supermarket says its planned Christmas TV advert has been banned for breaching political advertising rules. The anti-palm oil ad features an orangutan whose habitat has been destroyed due to deforestation. Palm oil is used by many manufacturers as a cheap alternative to more expensive oils and butters. However, it's a food staple for many Africans, both here and at home, and has been for generations. When I heard this whole, cry about the palm oil. I was thinking, what was all that about? Palm oil in the news? Why? How? But sustainability and environment are a big buzzword all over the place at the moment, and was featured on that advert. But we as Africans, we have a totally different relationship with palm oil, don't we, than they do in the West. For us, palm oil is, we consume it more, as opposed to it being in our shampoo and many other things. Was it right for them to ban this advert, as it were? Io, did you see a problem with it?
A bit of a difficult one. I do sympathise with the campaign to protect the orangutan. I don't think we should be destroying our tropical rainforest. But this is just an issue in Borneo. Now, Malaysia and Indonesia, those are the only two palm oil producing countries that have this issue with the orangutan, as far as I'm aware. Now, if you look at the other major palm oil producers, Thailand, 1.8 million tons, Colombia, 1.2 million tons, Nigeria, 940,000 tons, none of them has got an issue. So I think this matter could have been resolved without resorting to a ban. You know, palm oil production is a very important economic activity.
But how was it political? Because, you know, as I said there, it was banned for political reasons. They breached political advert rules, was what they said.
I think because it was sponsored by an environmental group who I presume paid, I don't know, but I presume paid for some of the advert, and suppose it was putting across their political agenda through this advert. And although like I so rightly said, the wiping out of the rainforest and danger to the orangutan is a really serious issue, and one that we should take on board. I think what we also have to realise is how important the production of palm oil is to help especially African countries reach their 2030 sustainable development goals, because producing palm oil is much more sustainable than producing other oils and other sources of energy, even in Africa. And I think you need to really look at the bigger picture when it comes to palm oil. Like you said, we consume it, we use it in cooking in really traditional ways. And I think, like I said, and like we both so rightly said, obviously you don't want to wipe out the orangutan, but that's not the only side of palm oil.
I hear what you're saying, and you know, let me clarify this. Obviously, Iceland are saying, the company are saying it was banned, but Clearcast, I believe, did not actually approve it, is, you know, the situation. So, yes, you know, it's deforestation, it's a deforestation issue in Malaysia and where have you. But I've never known it to be a deforestation issue, Mike, because you know, I've certainly seen it being produced, and it didn't require pulling the whole tree down.
Yeah, I think it depends where you go. The good thing is we're talking about palm oil,
yes,
which is good. And so the video achieved its end, which is to get people talking. I don't think it was a policy proposal. It wasn't. It's about to get people talking. And if you think about it, in the UK, many young people have no idea what palm oil is, or even where it's used, or what companies use it. So it's a good thing that's happening here now. The question you ask, it really depends who you go to. I mean, with any kind of issue, if you go to the Rainforest Action Network, for instance, they're targeting the snack 20, which is the biggest 20 companies that use palm oil in their snack products, right? Which is kind of stuff we use in the UK, which we don't have to use as much as we're using right now. Now, the problem with deforestation is there aren't bulldozers, you know, just about to enter a forest going, should we do it or should we not do it? No, they're doing it already, and what they're trying to do is slow people down. So when people say stuff like, "Oh, yeah, deforestation's bad," and you know, it's something we should think about. It's like, no, we've been thinking for a long, long time. And if we carry on at the pace we're going, there'll be no rainforest left.
Another video that has gone viral this week is this one with Aremu Afolayan.
What president are you? What kind of mayor of a state are you? Ambode or whoever is here. Who are you, for crying out loud? Why can't you find something to do to the situation of Nigeria? What is wrong with you people? Why do you cause trouble and cause everybody pain? Must that Ethiopian airline, they are the most rubbish airline in the world. Why would they not pick someone that they delayed and now asking us to pay 120,000 naira for train tickets? You are hub, including the mayor, the president, and the airline. All of you for frustrating us. We are not animals. Look at the airport you built. It's not even up to a train station. There is no AC in the elevator, nothing. Shame on you. Shame on you and shame on all your government. Shame on all the people you've governed that they cannot talk.
I think it's fair to say that he was pretty upset. Said a lot of very colorful language, I would say. But, you know, before I go further, I think it's fair to say that he's had a response from the airport authority in Nigeria. And I think he's also apologized because he's been taken round to have conversations with various custom officers and so on. So something has happened afterwards. But having said that, many of us, particularly those of us from Nigeria, can totally relate. I think we all have one story or the other of some form of experience that we've had going through that very wonderful Murtala Mohammed Airport one.
Very true, very true. I mean, I was once kept waiting there by Arik Airlines for 20 hours.
Okay.
It was a very, I mean, what happened eventually, all those of us on that flight, we bonded together and we became good friends because of the traumatic experience we went through. And some of them were actually white Europeans and they just loved it. They too became part of us. But that's just a sad reality of where we are as a people. You understand? Our airports just reflects who we are. And you go to a lot of other African countries, you don't get that. And they're actually working towards international standards. But as a people, you know, delays, nonchalant attitude, the elevate, you know, lifts aren't working, the carousel at that airport, I don't think it's working, the air conditioning, I don't think it's working.
The last time I was coming through, it did work. No, it did.
Progress.
But I think what this really shows is the power of that video, the power of social media. For that video to go viral, for the government to have a response, for him also to have to apologize. I mean, that's
well, I
about
guess he was apologizing for his choice of language,
of course,
which was quite colourful there.
It really was.
Mike.
I love on one side that he got a response. What I hate is what it had to take to get there. I hate this culture we have where until something goes viral, no one cares about it. It's a real issue.
And the last story that caught our eyes this week is this one, or rather this doll. A British company has produced a doll representing the actor who was recently crowned the sexiest man alive, Idris Elba no less. However, many have complained that the doll looks nothing like him. I think I agree. It is bold and slim, unlike the muscular Idris. It's had some very interesting comments on social media. Let's take a look at these. I don't know what you all thought of that doll. I'm going to come to you first, Afua.
I mean, it doesn't even look like it. It's just really weird. It's a very, I know he's behind me, he's lingering behind me, isn't he? Doesn't look at all like Idris Elba. Idris Elba has hair. He has and the doll's got a really thin head. I was literally like, who?
Are you trying to say Idris Elba's head is big?
I'm not saying his head is big. I'm saying his head is not squashed like the doll's was.
Right.
What's with the jacket over the shoulder? And the doll was so skinny.
That's so 1980s.
It's just not good. I sent it to my partner. He was like, should I buy you this for Christmas? I said, no.
By the way, do you know how much it costs?
£800.
Okay. I just thought I should mention that. When you saw it, did you think, wow, Idris Elba in the form of a doll?
Well, I actually thought, you know what, it's not a bad idea for black role models to be made into dolls and sold for $800 or £800.
But it should look like them at least.
At least it should be Idris Elba, not Montel Williams. When we put the name, when we put the name Idris Elba, and maybe somebody got the wrong picture, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I don't really think about Idris Elba too much. I don't look at his face. I don't look at his picture.
You?
No,
you're the only one.
I know. It's crazy, right? But I don't do it.
Why not?
Mainly because I don't know. I'm worrying about Brexit.
Right.
but I do think the doll is a black man. It just happens not to be Idris Elba.
Okay. Well, that's all we have time for this edition of JHUK. There's just time for me to thank my panel, Mike Omoniyi, Afua Adum, and Ayo Akinfe. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to follow us on Real JHUK on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm Priscilla Winkle, and from the entire team here in London, it's goodbye and thank you for watching JHUK.